Love it. We'll leave it. I love it. We'll leave it.
Straight shooter.
Are we recording?
Straight shoot.
Great. Welcome to Love It or Leave It. I'm Jon Lovett. We have a great show. It is Friday afternoon in Los Angeles. Stones are falling. Trumps are caving. First, I am here with Jon Favreau.
Hi.
I'm here with Tommy Vitor.
What's happening?
We're going to talk about these late-breaking developments, the end of the shutdown and the end of Roger Stone not being indicted. Then we'll go to the live taping of Love It or Leave It last night with Darcy Carden, Zoe Lister-Jones, Mitra Juhari, and Andrew T., where we covered Pelosi's...
Should have gone to that.
That's
Sounds
a
good.
great lineup.
Oh, everybody's very punchy.
Those are the funniest people
They're great.
you've ever had.
They're great people. And we covered Pelosi's confrontation with Trump, the nationwide teacher strikes, MAGA teens, dueling fire festival documentaries, and more. This is our season premiere, and you can come see Love It or Leave It on tour. We'll be in D.C., but I think that might be sold out. Deal with it. Ooh. Chicago, Madison, Milwaukee, and more, but those are the most recent ones. Those are the upcoming ones. And Pod Save America will be in Charleston on February 7th, New Orleans on February 8th, Durham on February 10th. You can come see us there too. You guys will be there.
What a schedule.
Damn right.
All right.
Let's get a good swing.
Two big stories.
Big.
Let's start with the shutdown. Let's be responsible. All right. Obviously.
Save the dessert for later?
Yes. Okay. On Friday, in a Rose Garden speech, Donald Trump announced the end of the shutdown through gritted teeth as Mike Pence waved a white flag while kneeling in front of Nancy Pelosi, who decided to let them all live.
Did that happen? I missed that.
Trump agreed to reopen the government for 3 weeks with no strings attached, which is exactly where we were before the shutdown began. All the pain, all the misery, all the uncertainty and fear for workers, all the disruptions. Trump went in without a plan. He got out with fucking nothing. He is still threatening to declare a national emergency if he doesn't get his wall in the next few weeks. Jon, start with you. Is there any way, okay, we have addled partisan brains, is there any way to find this, is there any way to call this anything other than a total surrender? Is there any possible way to argue that this is not that?
No. I mean, I just, I'm trying to think. So Trump said basically that 3 weeks, either he shuts down the government again or he declares a national emergency and builds the wall. He could have declared the national emergency if he wanted, which is a horrible idea, but he could have done that back in December when this first happened. Basically the 35 days we just went through, absolutely nothing changed since December when the shutdown started. Zero. There was zero progress made by Donald Trump on any front ever, anywhere at all.
Come on, Jon. Give me a little both sides. I need my fix.
I'm trying to think of what both sides could
Both
do.
sides mean.
Here's how you know there's no argument. A reporter asked Mitch McConnell today, so what changed? Yesterday you voted against opening the government. What changed? And McConnell said, I don't have anything to say. This was Donald Trump's plan that we voted on, so you'll have to ask the president.
He is so clearly... Tommy made this point on PSA earlier in the week, but it is so clear that Mitch McConnell is just quietly walking behind Donald Trump and just hoping he learns.
Hating his guts. Actually, I hadn't yet read the insanely long New York Times Magazine profile of Mitch McConnell, which is really just a celebration of awful, cynical politicians that do nothing but block things. But basically one of the subtexts that comes through in the story is that his press guy keeps sending people for the reporter to talk to who can sort of show distance between Mitch and Trump.
It's also worth remembering, too, that, to the point of he could have declared a national emergency. It's not like when he declares a national emergency, all of a sudden, pallets full of bricks start showing up.
No.
Nothing happens. There's it's a huge, long, messy process. It's other people's lands, lawsuits. It's an endless thing. Nothing changes. Tommy, so it's worth remembering how this began. You pointed this out earlier. Paul Ryan, basically, the Senate unanimously passed what is virtually the same as what they just agreed to.
Yep.
Then Ann Coulter and others got mad at Donald Trump. Then Donald Trump said he wouldn't go along with that plan without his $5.7 billion in funding for the border wall. And then Paul Ryan, in his last act as Speaker, refused to call a vote on the bipartisan passed Senate bill. Is this shutdown Paul Ryan's finest accomplishment?
It's his legacy. It's his magnum opus. It is why we hate him. I mean, the problem is Paul Ryan. So Trump obviously did this because they saw in their internal and external polling that Trump's disapproval had gone up 5 points to 58% over the last few months. So that is clearly why Trump caved. There was no path out of this. They were losing the war, et cetera. What is also true, though, is that if you're watching the reaction on Twitter right now, the alt-right MAGA meltdown is absolute. It is complete.
Very enjoyable.
And Coulter,
give yourself a treat.
And Coulter is tweeting that he's wimpier than George H.W. Bush, which for Trump is, which for her is the meanest thing you could ever say about any Republican, right?
Also.
So what's likely to happen now is
Also, at least, George H.W. Bush went to the war.
Yeah, she's an awful person. That's a different conversation. But so what's likely to happen is even the people that were mad at him about the shutdown, who might come back home and support him again, it's likely he's also going to lose that equivalent number of people on the right wing. So this was foreseeable, preventable, but because of the cowardice of McConnell and Ryan, they didn't just stop him in his tracks and say how bad this idea was.
John, do you think it matters? So we have people like I don't even want to say their names. They're just the most vicious and disgusting entities in right-wing politics who have been in Trump's corner the whole time. And they're the people who are pushing for this shutdown, who have kind of been his advisors on it. They're turning against him now. Is this the kind of thing we'll look back on and think it mattered, or will they be back in his good graces soon enough? What do you think?
We don't know, but I think it's very possible we could look back on this and think that this mattered. I mean, here's the thing. If there were other victories that Trump could win for his base that we saw in the future, then maybe no one would remember this. But, like, he's pretty much down to just this fucking wall, right? Like, between now and 2020, he's not going to get a single legislative accomplishment because he lost the House of Representatives, right? So the only thing he could do was force government shutdowns to extract policies that he wants from Congress. That has not worked because Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the Democrats said, we're not going to let it work. So now he can't do that anymore. So Donald Trump, he's not gonna have a lot of love from his base and from the right wing pundits, at least. Now, because they don't really believe in anything but power and clicks or whatever, they could come back into the fold in another month or so because all they care about is owning the libs. But I think he could have lost some support in some quarters of his base at this point.
So Trump gives a meandering speech on the border wall. It's a strange thing. He clearly knows he's fucked. He knows he's caving. So he goes out there and he basically he sort of jumps over that and then gives a deeply strange and long meandering speech about the importance of a border wall, why it matters. His sort of immigration speech is basically what he gave. And in it, he, of course, threatened to call for a national emergency again. We're now in this 3-week CR. We don't want to predict the future, but there's about to be a debate about border wall funding versus border security funding. What are you looking for in the next few weeks?
I mean, it feels like the debate is going to be entirely predictable, and that the Trump people want border wall funding, and the Democrats say, no, you don't get any kind of wall. We'll maybe give you some sort of smart wall, which means drone feeds and more personnel and security features. And they probably don't meet in the middle. So then he either declares a state of emergency or he does not. But declaring a state of emergency creates real problems for him among Republicans. So there's not a great solution here other than to maybe pretend this never happened.
Yeah, I don't think you can predict anything, but I would bet that the one outcome that won't happen is another shutdown at the end of 3 weeks. Like, I think it will be either in that conference committee between Democrats and Republicans in the House and Senate. Look, they've all agreed on $1.7 billion, $5 billion, whatever it is, in border security, non-wall border security funding previously. So maybe they up that number to $2 billion. I don't fucking know. So they have a little more non-wall border security funding, and maybe that's an agreement. And then maybe Trump just doesn't want to deal with this anymore because he wants to move on to the next episode of his television show. And so at 3 weeks from now, he's just like, yeah, I got some money, and we're building the wall anyway. It's happening.
We're invading Venezuela in 3 weeks. That's
well,
what the next episode is.
Stay tuned.
That's not great.
Stay tuned.
All right, before we move on, let's just take a moment to talk about Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, because, I think it's all of our natural impulses to worry that the Democrats aren't up to the fight against Trump. I think we've had that feeling for a very long time. One of the stories reported that basically there was a final meeting between Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer in which Mitch McConnell said, "Can you help me out, buddy?" And Chuck was like, "No, I cannot. I cannot help you out." And we lost Manchin on one of these votes, whatever. Yeah. But Democrats held together. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they had a far better hand, but they played it really well, right? I mean, it's worth pausing to say, like, here's an example where Democratic unity really made a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Good
look,
for them.
Nancy,
Great work, Nancy.
Nancy Pelosi gets all the credit. all of her detractors, not a great day for them. And she hung in there, and so did Chuck Schumer, and so did all the Democrats except for Joe Manchin yesterday. So fantastic. But we focus so much on personalities. I think when you step back, this is what happens when Democrats have power. We said 2 years ago when Donald Trump became president, the most important thing that we can all do is to work our asses off for 2 years to elect a Democratic House, because if a Democratic House exists, then Donald Trump won't be able to get away with shit anymore, that he won't be able to pass bad bills, that he won't be able to shut down the government like this, because if we all stand together, we can prevent him from doing it. And that's what happened. So all the work that everyone did all these last 2 years came to fruition today when we watched Donald Trump cave like a fucking I don't know.
Like a drug tunnel. That's a bad metaphor.
Yeah.
Well, like a drug tunnel you have because walls don't work.
That's exactly right.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, you know what else is nice about this is because Trump has had in control of the entire government, this mythology is built up that he's somehow an effective communicator or an effective politician.
He's magic. He's Teflon.
He's an impulsive idiot.
Yeah.
This proves it. And the fact that we had the numbers in our favor meant we could block everything he did. All of his little plans, his little meltdown in the Oval where he took, he thought he was just sandbagging Chuck and Nancy with the press corps and was going to have a big moment and show leadership. It didn't work. His fucking negatives skyrocketed. They failed miserably.
Yeah, since he has won, it's, a lot of pundits have said, does Trump always defy political gravity? Is he Teflon? Does nothing matter anymore? We now have two very big data points that is bullshit. Number one, the 2018 midterms, and number two, him caving on the shutdown. He is not a special politician. The same pressures that work on any other politician, the same constraints they have, constrain Trump as well.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I do think that this was such an important case. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time, that the policy was wrong, but giving in would have been so dangerous because it would have shown that this kind of governing could work. But I also think it's worth remembering that it's not just that we won; it's also that Democrats said we're going to stay together. And we're going to stand up for this, and we're going to be disciplined. And discipline's a muscle. And I think it's really important that Democrats in the House, Democrats in the Senate have seen, they saw it here, they saw it during the healthcare fight, that if we really do hang together, even when pundits start turning on them, it works. That party unity was incredibly effective, and it is our greatest tool, especially because we do only control one house.
Someone should print out all of the fucking both sides, woe is Democrats takes from the last 2 weeks and just put them up in the House.
Like
all
Arya
over the walls.
Stark.
Just to remind the freshman members, the sophomore members, some of the members in Congress, the centrists, look at these takes. Look at how fucking wrong they all were.
Not only, I mean, they weren't just wrong.
Burn them.
Not
Burn
only
the
wrong
tapes.
politically. Not only wrong politically, they were morally wrong because these people are more interested in the appearance of reasonableness than what is actually reasonable. The only reasonable position was not allowing a border wall argument to allow the government to be held hostage. And
Burn
we
the
did that.
takes.
Burn the takes. Burn the takes to the ground. I want the fires from the burning takes to be seen from fucking space.
I just imagine AOC with a torch outside the White House,
AOC.
Just lighting a Washington Post editorial on fire.
AOC walking down Broadway, every 2020 candidate following behind. Where is she going so that we may lead her? All right. Okay. All right. Now, also today,
Oh my God.
Trump advisor, Republican operative. Also today, Trump advisor, Republican operative, and Nixon cosplay aficionado Roger Stone was indicted on 1 count of obstruction, 5 counts of false statements, and 1 count of witness tampering. The charges flow from Stone's desperate and genuinely bonkers attempts to conceal his relationship with WikiLeaks and the Trump campaign. Stone promised he would never testify against President Trump. He then removed his shirt to reveal a new tattoo that he thought said "Pardon me" in Chinese characters, but actually just said "USA filth creep." So, but you can see why he would want the pardon thing, because he's in today's What a Day newsletter, Brian Boyler does a great job of walking through how Stone served as an intermediary between Trump's campaign and WikiLeaks. Stone informed the Trump campaign in or around June and July 2016 that he knew WikiLeaks possessed documents that would harm Hillary Clinton's campaign. Before WikiLeaks published John Podesta's stolen emails, Stone wrote to a supporter involved with the Trump campaign. He said, "Spoke to my friend in London last night. The payload is still coming." Let's just pause and just recognize that these people talk like fucking, like they just saw too many Fast and the Furious movies. It's out of control. The next day, a high-ranking Trump campaign official, known to be Steve Bannon, emailed Stone to ask why the emails had not been published. Stone responded that WikiLeaks would release a load every week going forward, which it did. Why does Roger Stone think only in loads?
I mean...
Yeah. I mean, it seems like... So most of the indictment, that what we learned in the indictment had been reported in other places. It seems like the one big piece of news in here was that Bannon, or there's also another high-ranking Trump official, some speculated that might be Rick Gates, one of them or both of them was directed to reach out to Stone. And that's all it says. It doesn't even say like by an individual one or by a person. It's just a passive voice.
Yeah.
But
the speculation is that that's Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, because we've all been in campaigns. Like, who directs the campaign manager, Steve Bannon, to reach out to someone?
It's not
either the candidate.
It's not Melania pulling the strings.
Either the candidate or the family, like maybe Don Jr. I guess.
It was Tiffany.
It could be
right. We don't know. So that's what we think is new here. Tommy, can you just talk a little bit about what it means for a presidential campaign to be coordinating with an organization like WikiLeaks in this way?
Yeah, I mean, so I think WikiLeaks first came on the radar screen of a lot of people in like 2009 or 10 when they started releasing a really horrifying video of some civilians getting shot from a helicopter in Iraq, I believe. Then there was a whole series of cables that had been stolen and dumped out. And then over time, I think Julian Assange and WikiLeaks began to be seen as someone who was a proxy for Russian intelligence. That they the Russians, the KGB, the GRU, all these folks, they don't necessarily do all their dirty deeds themselves. They launder them through various parts of organized crime or individuals or whatnot. So that's long been the speculation about WikiLeaks and Assange. So that wouldn't have been a secret. Like a person who read the newspaper for the past few years could have figured that out. So they would have known that they were working with a really shady guy.
So one of the reasons we know that Roger Stone knew that this wasn't kosher, let's say, is the efforts he went to cover it up when it became a subject of an investigation. Because we all deserve it, let's dive into the threats Roger Stone actually issued to an associate he was clearly afraid would spill the beans. He referred to Frank Pentangeli from Godfather Part 2. He's the guy that goes in front of the congressional committee and is like, I don't know Michael Corleone. He's just an olive oil guy. But
again, like these guys they're such wannabe JV gangsters. It's so ridiculous.
Well, it's incredible. Like it's the gangster movies were trying to be authentic to the experience of gangsters, and then idiot gangsters took the movies as the way they were supposed to act. What do you do?
Yeah.
So it's an Ouroboros.
I don't know if this is a well thought out operation.
No. So I think this is Dan who says this. They're criminals, but not criminal masterminds. But because we have been. Look, it has been a long. You know what? Let me just. I'll do it. Anyway, here are the delightful messages Roger Stone sent to his associate. To his associate. If you testify, you're a fool. Because of Trump, I could never get away with asserting my Fifth Amendment rights, but you can. I guarantee you are the only one who gets indicted for perjury if you're stupid enough to testify. Then, you are so full of expletive. You got nothing. Keep running your mouth and I'll file a bar complaint against you. Keep running your mouth and I'll file a bar complaint against your friend.
Ooh.
No.
Oh, not a bar complaint.
Not a bar complaint. And this is the best one. You're a rat, a stoolie. You backstab your friends. Run your mouth. My lawyers are dying. Rip you to shreds. And he threatened to, quote, take that dog away from you. I am so ready. Let's get it on. Prepare to die, expletive.
Let's get it on. Prepare to die.
It's like, we're going to fuck them. I'm going to murder you.
Isn't there a movie that starts with someone shooting a dog?
I haven't seen it yet, but I know the movie.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil it for other people. But it does start with
scene.
I know. It's still, you know.
Harry Potter, he goes to a fucking castle. I don't think we're ruining anything here.
It's actually it's Green Book, right?
It's Green Book. It's Green Book. It's Green Book. Green Book starts with Viggo Mortensen killing a dog.
Yeah, it's 102 Dalmatians, the sequel.
Wow.
Wax the dog.
All right. So I don't think Roger Stone's going to have a really easy time of it. Although I will say it is worth pointing out, he does say he's not guilty.
Yeah, well, so
It's worth mentioning.
Can I just mention my two favorite things from today? So Roger Stone comes out of the court. He does a little press conference. He's fucking giddy. He's happy as a pig in shit. These people care about him because he's a stupid scumbag. Oh, quick aside. Everyone keeps describing him as a dirty trickster, a fraudster. He's a fucking racist, lying scumbag. Why do we use these euphemisms? It drives me crazy. Crazy.
Right. It's the dark arts, they call it.
Yeah, the dark arts.
I'm so sick of referring to the Republican
criminal.
dark arts. Like, oh, wow, what a mysterious process. You goad people to vote based on racial animus. Like the dark arts of the Willie Horton ad, the dark arts of saying John McCain had a black child, the dark arts of Nixon's silent majority. It's the same thing every time.
Yeah.
Just
You're
be
a
racist.
You're a racist. So anyway, he comes out and he does the stupid Nixon two-finger peace sign thing because he thinks that's fucking funny.
which Tommy called. He's about to come out, and Tommy's like, he's gonna come out and do the fucking Nixon hands.
Did you really call that?
He did.
That's really impressive.
weird.
That was cool. That's cool to have gotten that right. It's good because it's like your theory. Your science is good.
Yeah, that ability is like my college philosophy major, sort of not applicable to most life events, but whatever. Here we are. And then I also love this morning just waking up to Trump tweeting, "Greatest witch hunt in the history of our country, no collusion. Border coyotes, drug dealers, and human traffickers are treated better. Who alerted CNN?" Like
It's
meltdown.
It's the being reduced to just shouting distraction words is very funny. Just like blue car, elephant.
Whoa,
coyote.
no collusion. Whoa.
What's over there?
Well, I don't think things are gonna go well for Roger Stone.
So just before we close out on today's incredible developments, so as John, you pointed out that the Roger Stone, a lot of what Roger Stone had done was reported on previously, and yet it does feel like we're starting to see the shape of what Mueller is circling, right? Both the collection of crimes that took place during the campaign and then the effort to cover those crimes up after the campaign was through. Are we at the beginning of the end here? Are we now past the point of being able of just saying we have absolutely no idea what Mueller is going to turn over, and we're starting to see the real contours of what he's building?
I think we still don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what we do know from today, and we've known this before too, though, that like the Russians wanted to interfere with the campaign to elect Donald Trump. We know that they had this whole campaign. It was the social media. It was the hack. It was the social media campaign. It was all this other shit. And we know that the Trump campaign was game for it.
They were
because
they were game.
And remember, in June
they were down to party.
In June, all the fucking knuckleheads took a meeting with the Russians. This is a meeting on behalf of the Russian government's support of Trump, and we want to give you dirt on Hillary Clinton. In July,
the same period of time.
and then in July, there's the hack, and there's the dissemination of emails, and then there's the report that it was Russia that did that, and then it was after July that someone on the campaign, high-ranking official, was told to reach out to Roger Stone by someone who we don't know, but maybe Trump. And then tell Roger Stone, like, when's more coming? When is more stolen goods from the Democrats coming? Because we want to do that. So from within the campaign, we know that now people were trying to coordinate through Roger Stone to get stolen documents from Democrats that they were laundered through Russia, from Russia through WikiLeaks. So like we know all this. I think the only question is, like, will Mueller be able to put all this together in terms of additional indictments and possible criminality on behalf of the president? Or is Mueller just going to say, here's the story of how the Trump campaign essentially betrayed their country, couldn't find an exact law that they broke, but this is the story of what they did.
Yeah.
And that I don't think we know yet.
I think in part we don't know because a lot of these indictments, they are written with descriptions of vague descriptions of other potential crimes.
Yeah.
And it's unclear whether they are he's putting it there for context or because there's more to come.
Yeah. Mueller's painting a big, beautiful canvas. And we're looking through cracks in the wall, and you can see little items. You're like, oh, that's an indictment. Oh, that's a sad old racist. But you can't see the full picture.
Who is it's a Hieronymus Bosch. It's I've been watching Better Call Saul, which is great. And I'm always reminded of, like, in Better Call Saul, which the old saying, like, you can't con an honest man. It's that, the Russians came to all of these different people with a bunch of offers that were just too good to be true. And they all fucking took it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. When we come back, we are going to go to our live show with... When we come back, we're going to go to our live show with Darcy Carden, Zoe Lister-Jones, Mitra Juhari, Andrew T. where we covered all the rest of the week's news. We had a great time. I came up with a new nickname for Nancy Pelosi that I'm pretty proud of. All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.